Hey everyone, Ben Siegel here. Been a long time since I've made anything for this channel, but I'm really excited to kick off a new series of videos on what I'm going to call little tricks for us to use as historians. You're welcome to watch this if you're not a professional historian, but I'm really gearing this towards anyone who is working in some ways with historical text or working in archives or trying to parse through a lot of information, and to share with you some of the tricks that I've learned and that I use on a regular basis in my own writing and research. It's really impossible for us to think about any kind of work without thinking about the role of AI. And AI is a really exciting development for us as scholars, as historians. And of course, it's also one that's fraught with a lot of opportunities for really bad uses, for bad kind of history writing or bad techniques. We see this all the time with people kind of trusting AI or taking it at face value. But I want to show you some of the ways in which I think it can be useful for us in parsing larger amounts of text. And so this is the problem that I was facing a couple weeks ago. Actually, it came about a year ago when I found a text that was going to be really useful for me, except it was written in Ottoman Turkish. Problem is, I can't read Ottoman Turkish. I think this is probably pretty common for many historians. You come across a text, you're plumbing the archives, and you may speak a couple of different languages, but you don't speak the language that you need here. Now, if that's a language like French or a language like Italian, German, it's pretty easy to plug that into Google Translate and to get something that is adequate for your purposes, particularly if you're just trying to read it at a broad level for the content that's in it. But this doesn't work for us if we have a language that doesn't appear on Google Translate or Deep or any of the other big translation systems. Now, those translation systems work because there's a large corpus of information on the internet in those languages, in Spanish, for example. But of course, the Ottoman Empire did not have the internet, so there's not really a huge corpus of Ottoman text on the internet to work with. So if I go to Google Translate, I look at the languages that I have modern Turkish, I have Persian, I have English, I have Dogri, I have Ilocano. I have really an incredible list of languages here, but Ottoman Turkish is not one of those languages. And it just so happened that that was the language that I needed. So I have this text here. I'm showing it to you in my Zotero library. It's called Hashash Zirati, which I know enough to know that that means poppy agriculture. And that's something that I'm working on for my new book. So I can sort of grok my way through this. If you have another Arabic or Persian script, you can read it pretty easily, but I have no idea what it says. So the first thing I needed to do, of course, was to get this transliterated. And it turns out there's actually a pretty good way of doing that. I take a screenshot of, say, the opening page here, and I'm going to upload it here into Google Drive. I don't think this works directly in Google Documents. I think you have to go to Google Drive. So I took a screenshot. It's a PNG file. And if you go in here and you click on Open with Google Docs, I get a scan of the page itself. And look at that. It's done an OCR on this Ottoman Turkish text here. So I have the Ottoman Turkish text ready to go. Again, doesn't really help me because I can't read this text. When I have that text then though, and this will differ depending on what language you want to translate, I found online this transliteration website, and if I put it in here, I get a decent approximation of what these words are. So this is the first step, is transliterating from whatever script you're working from into something that is in Latin. It might work directly with some non-Latin scripts, but you're going to have to experiment and figure that out for yourself. So once I do that, I did that in Google Documents, and I took every different page here. And I got a full document, you can see here, of a transliterated text from Ottoman Turkish. Now, as I look at this right now, it looks like it has some similarities to modern Turkish, but obviously not enough that you can plug it into Google Translate. I didn't get very good results when that happened. It doesn't really work. So then comes the actual kind of fun part here. So I'm using Claude, which is, I guess, Anthropic's competitor to OpenAI's GPT-4 or ChatGPT. So if I ask Claude, do you speak Ottoman Turkish? It says, no, I do not speak Ottoman Turkish. My knowledge of languages is based on my training data, which did not include Ottoman Turkish. Ottoman Turkish was the form of Turkish using the Ottoman Empire, written in the Arabic script with many loanwords from Arabic and Persian. It differs significantly from modern Turkish. As an AI system, I am not capable of speaking or understanding languages beyond what I was specifically trained on. Okay, that makes sense. But what I do know instead is that Ottoman Turkish is connected very much to both modern Turkish and Persian, and you would need to adapt this to whatever language it is that you're working with. So instead, I'm going to ask it a very different question. And it took me a while to actually phrase this. I said, here's a text that's been transliterated from Ottoman Turkish into modern Turkish characters. Can you help translate it? You might not know Ottoman Turkish. In fact, I know you don't know Ottoman Turkish, but do your best using inference from your knowledge of Turkish, Persian, and any related language. I knew that Claude, like other AI systems, will probably know modern Persian, it will probably know Turkish, and so I wondered if that word inference would help me, that it could kind of triangulate from those other languages to get me something that might work. And what do you know, it comes back and it says, here's my attempt at translating Ottoman Turkish into English based on my knowledge of modern Turkish and other languages. Poppy is an annual plant belonging to the poppy family, cultivated for its seeds in the sap called opium. And what I get essentially the full text here translated. It's about 10 pages worth of text. And to me, there's all kinds of discussions of fertilizer and the different types of manuring and bugs and pests. This to me looks very much like the text that I was expecting it to translate, but of course I had no way of accessing it without speaking Ottoman or reading Ottoman Turkish myself. Now, I wanted to kind of check it a little bit. So I looked in here, and this is where your work as a historian comes in. And there's a great line. It says, for these reasons, poppy cultivation in the Ottoman lands has been gradually increasing, with farmers filling their pockets and smiling. And I wanted to do a little bit of double checking here. So I just typed it in here, and I said, please let me know how you translated the text. For these reasons, poppy cultivation in the Ottoman lands has been gradually increasing, and show me how you got from the original to this translation. And it says, certainly I'll break down how I arrived at the translation. For these reasons, poppy cultivation in the Ottoman lands has been gradually increasing. And what I get here is a breakdown of how the grammar works. So it's got an identification of the main subject and verb. It shows me how the different clauses are assembled here. This doesn't help me all that much because I only have a really limited knowledge of the language involved, but I do get a pretty good breakdown of how an individual sentence was translated here. And this is where I have to kind of talk about the limits of what AI can do. This gives me a really great understanding of a text that I had no understanding of. And I can kind of decide from there whether that text is worth my getting professionally translated or not. In this case, what I found was there was a lot of technical information. I didn't necessarily need to get it all translated, but there's a couple paragraphs here that I do think are very valuable. And for those things, I would use Claude to go back and get the original sections to see where they had been translated from. And I think you could do this in other AI systems as well. And I would then farm out those paragraphs to someone who is a professional translator from Ottoman Turkish. And I can find that through my network, or I can find that online. But that way I don't have to translate an entire document or rather to professionally translate an entire document when I have a pretty good sense of what's being written in the text. So as with all things AI, you want to double check, triple check your work. You never want to let the AI make decisions for you or to count on it because it's going to make a lot of mistakes. It's going to get things wrong. It's going to hallucinate. But if you're looking for a rough translation as a historian to help you understand whether a text is worth getting translated professionally or what sections are, I think this is a really good technique for you. So I think this is adaptable if you speak another language if you don't speak another language that needs some translation. So maybe you're working in Manchu, or maybe you're working in Old German or Middle German, or you have some kind of language that you need to translate, but you can't use Google Translate or any of the other impressive online translation services. Try something like this. See if you can get the AI to use inference from other languages, whether that's a more modern language or a related language, to help you get to a better translation. I hope this has been helpful for you. For me, it was just enough that I could go through the couple of Ottoman Turkish texts that I had and to decide whether they were worth translating professionally. I hope this really helps you in the article or the dissertation or the other project that you're working on where you really need to get something translated and you don't know where to start. I have a bunch of other tricks that I've been playing with and I'm going to share with you over the weeks ahead. In the meantime, I hope this was really useful. Thanks for watching. See you next time.